Hey, what's up everyone? This is Ed with edhard.me, and in this SketchUp snippet, I want to briefly go over the SketchUp project canvas, the tools, and just familiarize you with a few of the tools that you will use a lot. This is not an exhaustive review of all of the tools on SketchUp Make, but it's just to give you some of the basics to get started with a project. So let me jump right in. I've got my project open. This is a farmhouse table, and you can download this from the SketchUp warehouse. If you go there and search for farmhouse table, you can also head over to my website at edhard.me and look for the uh, farmhouse table plan post, and it's easy to find. You can search for it or click on the popular posts, and you'll find the link to download it yourself. So I've got this pulled up, and there's a couple things I want to tell you once you get SketchUp installed and you're ready to go. And that is, you may or may not see this nice large tool set right here. And I use this all the time, and I always like to be able to look at it. I have a fairly wide monitor. If you have a small monitor, it might get in your way. But the way to find it is to go to View Palettes, to View Tool Palettes, and make sure that the large tool set is clicked. So if you don't see it, I recommend to turn that on. I also like to go to Preferences and make sure that in your drawing that you've got Auto Detect set as a click style, and I like to have Continue Line Drawing, particularly if I'm drawing like a board or something like that. So what that will do is it will help SketchUp to anticipate the things that you want to do, so that when you're trying to grab a object like the corner of, say, this table board, you can, with the, say, the move tool, it will kind of snap to the corners or to the end points, and it'll sort of anticipate what you want to do. And as you drag it around, as it relates to the origin, you'll be able to snap to the origin. So I like to just make sure that those things are set, and they usually are by default, but just make you aware of them. So let me talk about a few of the tools that you will use all of the time. So you've got these three tools right here, and these are these three tool sets. You got pencil, then you have these sort of tools to make curves, and then you've got these tools to make common objects. And these are your drawing tools, so you draw with these all the time. And this is also, the first one is your select tool. It's probably fairly obvious, but just in case you're like brand new, you can use this to select objects. So you can see I've selected all the objects in this table. The thing to note about the selection tool is it will only select what is completely encompassed. If I just want that end board, I can select that, and that's all I've got. It didn't pick up these other things. But if I go like that, I'll grab that in the legs, because those were the things that were completely surrounded by my selection box. Also note down here in the bottom left that there are little instructions. So as you use tools, um, sometimes those instructions will change, and that's a helpful reference point. And then down in the bottom right, you've got an area to actually type in measurements. So if you're using the pencil tool and you decide that you want to draw a line, you can actually type, let's see, I'll type 55, and you can use abbreviations, you can use decimals, you can use um, uh, fractions. So I could just type a 55-inch length. I could go over 6 1/4 inches. You can also do this with millimeters or whatever you want. You'll just set that in your template, and that's a very, very helpful area. And actually, I use that much more than if I'm just kind of dragging and trying to watch where the length stops. So, and now you can see me use my eraser tool to get rid of some of these lines. And that's how you use the eraser tool. Pretty cool, huh? So these tools you're going to use all the time. This push-pull tool, likewise, use it every time you make a 3D object. So let's say I've got this board on the end of the table, and I wanted to change the length. I'm just going to explode it so I can address each one of my faces and lines individually. And I can click the push-pull tool, and I can make that longer or shorter. So very, very useful tool. The next one you're going to want to use, and I'm going to actually group this back together right there. The next one that I use all the time is the move tool. So this will allow me to grab things at any point. Generally speaking, I'm grabbing corners or ends and I'm moving them. So I click on it and I can move them. And SketchUp will try to move things on the axis. You see how that line's switching to green. So I'm moving it on the green axis, or on the let's see, right there, blue axis. You probably can't tell real well by the color, but um, I'm going to hit escape, or I could just do undo and put it back. So the move tool is extremely helpful, as is the rotate tool. And this, I'll go over this in a little more detail, but this will just allow you to take a object and click, drag, and rotate that. And again, I could type 45 degrees down in my bottom right, and I can move that. So I'll just undo and put it back. Another fairly useful tool. Um, some of these, like the offset and the scale, I use them, but I don't use them very much. So I will go over those in another tutorial. The tape measure tool, very helpful tool that allows you to measure the length of objects, but what it also does is allows you to create guides. So I may need to put a guide in the center of this table for some reason, and I can use the measuring tool to do that. So it snaps to that center point right there. So now I have a guide. You may, I use guides all the time, and I use them to assist my drawing, and sometimes I get a whole bunch of guides on here, and if I want to snap, say, a picture of this and put it on my site, I don't want to see all the guides, but I also don't necessarily want to delete them all because uh, I might need them for some additional drawings. So I can go up here to the View menu and I can turn the guides on and off. Pretty cool, huh? So I can also turn other things on and off, particularly the axis if I want a real clear picture. So lots of options here. I'm not going to go over them in this for the sake of your time, but I'm also going to show you this label tool, so I can put things on here, and depending on where I click, it will try to anticipate what I want to do. So it's telling me that that particular board is 316 square inches. I really just want to say that it is a 2 by 6 piece of lumber. And so I can type that and use that to label projects. The other tool that I use a lot, particularly if I'm creating a plan, even for myself to remember, is not up here, but it's down on the large tool palette, which is uh, this measuring tool. It's not the tape measure, but it's the measure label. And this will let me grab, let's see, I'll do it over here on the end so it's easier to see. Click on one end, pull to the other, and then I can either pull up or out, but it tells me what the lengths are. So again, that's a really, really helpful tool. Um, Let me just touch on some of the movement tools, which you will use all the time. So with your mouse, if you have a scroll button or a trackpad, you can zoom in or out using that scroll uh, button, or just on a Mac, I use two fingers on the mouse pad and move them either up or down. So this scales my object, so I can zoom in on certain areas, and it will zoom in or out depending on where the cursor is. So I can put the cursor there and zoom in there. Let's say I want to look at this joint right here. I can just zoom right in on that. And if I want to get the entire uh, object proportionally in the center of my canvas, I can come up here to this little magnifying glass with the four arrows around it and click that, and that will get everything right back in front of me. The other thing that I use constantly is this rotate tool. So that just simply rotates your object around, so you can get up under it. Oops, excuse me. Get up under it and see things, and then zoom in, zoom out, rotate. So really, that between the zooming in and out and the rotate tool, that's like you're constantly using that when you're creating an object. And then if you have something that's a little offset and you don't want to use that because you just want to gently move it over just a little bit, you can use this hand tool and you can sort of move things around. So there are lots and lots of other tools. I cover a number of them individually in some of my other little SketchUp snippets. So I just wanted to familiarize yourself with the canvas and some of the basic tools and just give you enough to go ahead and either pull a object down or start drawing something yourself, and so you can go ahead and learn how to use the software and get familiar with it. Excuse me. I appreciate your time a ton. I hope this was helpful to you. I would love your comments on it. I would also love you to swing over to my site at edhart.me and check out my projects, and you can access this table as well as some other cool projects and get links to the SketchUp plans on the SketchUp 3D warehouse. So thank you so much.